One of the most inspiring things about the human body to me is that the spine reflects how one lives their life. And how one lives their life is reflected in the spine. When somebody lays down on my table, I can feel this instantly. When I sit down with somebody when they first come in for their exam and we speak and I get to hear about what it is that they're experiencing, what pain, whether that's headaches or anxiety or something a little bit more profound that has to do with actualizing their life in the way that they're looking for, what they tell me and what shows up in those moments is always consistent with what's happening on the table. And when it's not consistent, usually you can see that too. The spine reflects how one lives their life. So Donnie Epstein, who created the network spinal technique, the shape, tone, and tension of your spine is the shape, tone, and tension of your life. When I first heard that quote by Donnie Epstein when I was in chiropractic school, I thought it was quite profound. And over the 8 years that I've been practicing network spinal and feeling spines one after the other on the table, I can tell you that my awareness, how absolutely true that statement is, has just grown more and more. And it really is quite beautiful because it's like a volume knob. It's like a volume knob on life. You see, your body is doing always exactly what you want it to, whether you like that or not. You know, we all want the easy button, but we're putting every thought, feeling, and experience into our body, into our nervous system, into our spine. And our spine is 100% aware of what that cosmic soup is. Our brain, totally different story. Our brain believes what we want it to believe. It believes what we support, but our spine tells the truth of what actually is going on in our life. You know, when you think about like a disc issue, a lot of people have disc issues, very common thing in the world today. And it's often viewed as a structural problem, like somehow you twisted wrong or moved wrong and the disc slipped into the spinal cord. Well, I got news for you. Unless you're doing something really extreme, like falling off a motorbike or a major car accident, our spine is meant to deal with that. It can handle those forces. So what's going on when a disc actually herniates? It's not really a structural problem. It's an energy problem. That area of your spine has been chronically under tension, which is a structural thing. There's a structural part associated with that. But that chronic tension squeezes the nerves, squeezes the blood vessels, squeezes everything in that area to where there isn't any real fluid communication, whether that's getting oxygen in, toxins out, or nerve communication to coordinate with the rest of the body and spine. All of that is suffocated. We all know what it feels like to fall asleep on your arm, right? Well, you've got all these sensory nerves here too that you feel all that tingling and it feels weird and and you can't move it. You're very conscious of this experience. But when that happens in your spine, you don't have the same nerve awareness. You don't have the same sensory nerves there to tell you what's going on. Furthermore, that tension is coming from your posture. And your posture is coming from your relationship to what you're experiencing in life. And when that experience, that disposition becomes chronic, in other words, I feel a certain way about my life, I feel a certain way about my environment, I have a certain level of vigilance, I'm not completely at ease, as if I was raised in Rainbow Bright Land, right? I have a certain amount of stress that I have to deal with. And so I feel that tension in my body. Well, that pulls your spine in a way that destabilizes the biomechanics of your spine. That is a structural symptom. not a structural cause. And so when that ends up happening, that is what puts that tension right in there in the spine. And so you can think of it like this. Imagine this right here is a bar of soap. It's your disc, and this is a vertebra, and this is a vertebra. Now, if this is the way that your spine biomechanically is supposed to be, but then you have tension on the front of the spine, which is this side over here, and it does this, right? And this is a bar of soap. Now add pressure. If I squeeze these together, where's that bar of soap going? Right into the spinal cord. That's what's going on. It's an energy problem. And a lot of people want to make energy or energetics of the body this woo-woo thing. It's not. It's what we are. We are made of energy. Electrons matter. It's what binds everything together, creates those attractive forces. And we are almost entirely space. I think it's 98%, close to that number, space. And so energy is what is holding everything together and creates the mechanics. And through our experience, through our nerve communication, through everything, we have to have metabolic energy. We have to have a communication between cells. We have to have communication through nerves. We have to have all of those things. And when blood flow can't get to an area, it restricts life, and that area is struggling to just exist. Those cells are struggling to sustain life. And so all the energy goes into that right there. And so when you think about the other things that happen when we hold tension in our body, so let's just take a moment to talk about what that is. There are two kinds of stress. There's eustress with an EU, stress, that's the good stress. That's going to the gym. That's pushing yourself that extra mile, but in a way that feels good, that makes you feel alive, makes you feel your power. And then there's distress, where you are overloaded, completely overloaded, and you're just like, okay, one more thing and I'm gonna crack, right? How often do we experience that emotion within a day or within a week? How much do you experience that within a day or within a week? That's distress. And when we experience distress in our body, we resist. And that resistance is tension. And so not only does it destabilize those specific areas in our spine, it does something else that's actually more important. It's called adverse mechanical cord tension. And what happens is you've got your spinal cord floating in the middle of the spinal column. And the spinal cord isn't separate from the brain, it's one piece. So you can think of a big brain that gets narrow at the brainstem and then goes through the hole called the foramen magnum at the base of the skull, and then comes down into the spinal column, suspended, and then it's got these roots, these nerve roots that communicate with all of your organs that come out in between every spinal level where that bar of soap is, all throughout the spine. Okay? Now, what happens is, if this is the brain, right, and this is the brain stem, and this is the spinal cord, and this is the base of the skull, the foramen magnum, like this, when you have tension in your body, it pulls down. Now, the thing is that this area that's actually right where that hole is, that's your brain stem. That's your autonomic functions. That is the entire functioning of all of your organ systems in your body, the whole coordination of all of that stuff. The basic functions of being a living creature, reptiles have those same parts. So just think about what a reptile can do. Breathe, sleep, digest, fight, flight, okay, rest. All of those things are happening right there. And now you've got pressure. And so your body, in its infinite wisdom, because there's an intelligence here that is beyond our understanding, coordinating everything, doing everything exactly as it's needed for us to be here right now. That is coordinating. When it feels that pressure on all of your basic functions, what do you think it's going to do? Well, anything. And one of the things it can do is actually create disc thinning and disc herniations, because that shortens the spinal column, which takes the pressure off of the brainstem. Another thing it can do is, as that pressure goes in, is it does that same thing that we talked about, that energy problem. It starts to suffocate. And when we experience anything that is destructive to the human body, we feel pain. And so one of the things that we might feel is headaches, which is why chiropractic care and network spinal care are incredibly beneficial for basic headaches, migraine headaches, because it's all pressure on that brainstem that's causing it. There's all these fascial connections and meningeal layers that wrap around the brain. They all get pressurized too. So when that happens, your body has all these amazing ways of getting your attention. Pain is not normal. Pain is a sign that you need to pay attention. So that's what's going on with the body. And when we stop thinking of our body like a machine, we get older, we use it more, and it breaks. No, this is a self-healing organism. A self-healing organism with an intelligence beyond our level of understanding. So if we just stop trying to understand it and start respecting it and recognizing that it is always doing what we need it to do. And it's always reflecting how we relate to our world. And when we recognize that and give it the respect that is due, then we can actually listen to it, we can participate with it, and we can change how we live. Because a lot of people are not moving their body, they're not eating right, and they're not dealing with the chronic tension and stress because they think it's normal. And then not getting the results they want in life, not feeling the best about their experiences, not you should feel good just by being here. And when we're not, that's a sign that we're not living up to our potential. And so when I talk about the intelligence of the body being beautiful and that little volume knob being actually quite beautiful, it's because it's all here to support how we want to live. It is 100% freedom. And when you claim it and you recognize it, you can own it. Anxiety, headaches, back pain, and organ dysfunction almost all the time are related to tension in your spine. So would it make sense to address the tension first? At least maybe come in, see a chiropractor that actually measures these things to see, is that actually going on? And so the other thing that happens when I talk about those nerve roots all up and down the spine, going to organs, when those nerve roots come out of the spine, imagine this as being one of them, and this is like the meningeal layer that protects it, wrapped around. When we have tension, it's like this is pulling up on that nerve root. And when that happens, it suffocates that nerve. So the organ at the other end of this nerve, do you think it's actually functioning the best that it can? It's not. Do you think that you get a signal that says, hey, kidney on the right, not up to par? You don't. What you get is organ failure way down the road. Addressing the tension in the spine not only improves your health and wellness, it keeps you out of the hospital, it keeps you off pharmaceutical drugs, and most importantly, it gives you access to the energy that is bound in all that tension, freed up so that you can actually live at the height and level that is consistent with what you deserve in life, which is to say, an extraordinary life. And when you live an extraordinary life, everyone around you is inspired to do the same. I hope that's inspiring to you, because it is so inspiring to me.